health is the focus, and we are so glad that you're joining us. We have a great show in line for you today, so hang in there, grab that cup of coffee, warm it up, whatever you need to do, but stay close to either your radio or your computer, because we know that we have people who are listening at bayword.com. You know, I would be remiss if I did not mention my good friend, best friend as a matter of fact, Attorney Lance Scriven, who had a very tough week this week. He lost his sister. Lance is a friend of the show, also a former guest of the show. His sister Rosemary passed away this week. She was 57 years old. So our thoughts and prayers absolutely go out to the Scriven family. So, all right. A couple of other things going on. There's an event that we were invited to happening over in Pinellas County that I just want to put a shout out to, and we actually may want to have him as a guest at some point. This is State Representative Darrell Roussan, who's at the Relay for Life event. You know, we're sponsored by the American Cancer Society, so they're having a special breakfast right now, as a matter of, or maybe it's ending about this time, but it is an event that is raising money for the Relay event over in Pinellas County, and I'm not sure if you know about Representative Roussan's story, but he had a wife who died of cancer, and he was the caregiver, and one of the things that, you know, maybe we should talk about at some point is the caregiver of cancer patients. So maybe we should put Sean on the, you know, he should be the one that makes the connection to get Representative Roussan on the show. Can we give him that?
He's esteemed, right? He's esteemed.
I have chatted with Representative Roussan before. So
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised. He is just so highly connected.
I mean, you know, when dignitaries come over here from different countries, you know,
they're asking Sean. They're asking
hey,
Sean.
Son, how are the Eagles?
I had to get that out there.
They had a broken wing or something.
I had to get that out there.
Man.
And we have a guest today, don't we?
We do have a great guest today.
Who is this guy?
So blessed and pleased to be joined by Brother John Muhammad. He is a member of the Muhammad Mosque number 95 in St. Pete. For the past 13 years, he's been involved in community outreach with the self-improvement program of the Nation of Islam. He's currently, and we got this long bio, I don't know when this guy sleeps, all these activities he's involved in, but he's currently the co-chair of the Agenda 2010 and Beyond advocacy group, as well as the president of the Childs Park Neighborhood Association. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Citywide cleanup, community needs assessment workshops with the University of South Florida. I mean, on and on and on. Supply giveaway, school supply giveaway. So I'll stop there because we want to hear, absolutely hear from him. And one thing I do want to mention, I love this slogan. The ultimate aim of their association is to put neighbor back into the hood. Isn't that's pretty cool? I love that. So, Brother John Muhammad, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Community Conversations family welcome you to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's definitely an honor to be here. I want to thank Brother Mike Adekunle, who actually introduced us. Great brother who's working with the Urban League and with the 100 Black Men of Tampa Bay. So we really thank him for arranging the whole meeting with us. So we're grateful and honored to be here.
Wonderful. When do you have time to sleep? You're involved in all these activities.
I remember Tevin Campbell had a song, Round and Round. He said, nothing comes to sleepers with dreams.
Oh,
wow. They go way back to bring that time.
But we do need a rest. There's a difference between sleeping and resting. So we definitely want to get essential rest. In the spirit of health and taking care of yourself, you've got to get proper rest. But
absolutely.
It's a lot to be done.
So, you know, I mentioned the slogan, put neighbor back into the hood. Tell us a little bit about that, and what does that mean?
Well, with putting neighbor back into the hood, when we first began the work in our community, and really I go back even before that, we had a mosque meeting at Muhammad's Mosque number 95, and our regional minister, Minister Rasul Hakeem Muhammad, he was making a presentation, and he was discussing the community needs. And he said, even when you look at our neighbors, our neighborhoods, or our communities, he said, we've taken neighbor out of the hood. And then he started to give us an assessment of how words have power and how the meaning of words and the way that you look at words and how you define words can determine the way you think and the way you act. And so he said the word neighbor, in the absence of neighbor, all you have is hood. And when you have hood in the noun form, hood represents a covering or somewhere that you would duck and you'd hide. And he said that's what you see us doing in the neighborhood. When people come through, everybody kind of scurries and they're moving and they don't want to be seen or exposed, and so it's a hood. And so he said that the way that it was originally intended was that neighbor was a very important part of it, and it's not just limited to the people who live next door to you.
Right.
We think neighbor more so as being locational, but it's not locational. Neighbor is actually conditional, and then he referenced the scripture. I think it was Matthew 28 when he talks about how Jesus gave 2 great commands, and one of those commands, of course, was love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and then the second one was love your neighbor. But if you don't have a neighbor in the hood, then who do you love? What you begin to do is you start loving your car, you love your material wealth, you love your possessions, because that absence of neighbor in the hood causes you to fall in love with things as opposed to falling in love with the environment and the community. And so after we looked at the absence of neighbor in the hood, looking at the scriptures, we also found and saw that the command, when they asked Jesus, they said, well, Jesus, you're telling us to love our neighbor. Well, who is my neighbor? And then Jesus went into the parable of what we commonly refer to as the Good Samaritan. And he started talking about the man who went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and how he fell among thieves, right? Well, when you think about the hood, a lot of times you think about what you're going to run into, right? And so he was talking about this condition of this man who was traveling, and when he traveled, he got robbed, and he was, things were taken from him. And then there were people who came by. There was a priest who came by. The priest walked by on the other side. There was a Levite who came by. He walked by. But it was the Good Samaritan that looked out for the man who fell among the thieves. And then Jesus said, now, which one of these did the neighborly thing? And they said it was the Samaritan, and this is where we get the term the Good Samaritan. And so that's the work that we're looking to do, is we see that the condition of the neighborhood or condition of the hood, it looks like we've been hit in the head. It looks like we've been robbed of our raiment and all of our glory and all of our grandeur. And so we want to do the neighborly thing, and we start by identifying that we do have to put neighbors back in the hood, more of the idea and the concept. And so that's what we're all about, rebuilding and establishing the concept of neighbor and brotherhood. And then when you look at hood in its proper form, hood is actually a suffix, which means the quality or state of being. And so that's what we want to do. We want to have the quality or state of being neighbors in our environment. And it starts with the family, of course, because you start with fatherhood, then you go from fatherhood to motherhood. So we have to develop programs to increase family and the state of being of family. So we have fatherhood, motherhood, brotherhood, sisterhood, and then we put all of these things together and we have a true neighborhood, and we have our group identity, and then we're able to effectively organize and produce change in our environment. So.
Wow, that's a lot right there.
Hey, man, I had class last night. 5 hours. I wasn't planning on learning nothing. We try to have fun on this show. I need a piece of paper.
Now, with the idea, so you've taken this concept and then now are bringing it actually to so it's not just a high theoretical philosophy, but you're actually there's a plan of action to it.
Absolutely.
Right? So tell a little bit about that. What are you guys doing there?
Well, after, like I said, we were inspired by that, and then, of course, learning bears fruit through practice, and so we